By God. By God. Welcome to Karibu Anawim's 15 Minutes at Dr. Zali's Desk special. Join us as we dive into the topics related to living with a facial disfigurement. Whether you're here for yourself, your loved ones, or for educational and professional insights, this is for you. We start our conversation with clear, understandable terminology. While we use disfigurement, it's for medical and legal clarity. We acknowledge you may relate to terms like visible difference or your own diagnoses. All our presenters have lived experience or work with people living with facial disfigurement. Curious to know more? So are we. Pull up a seat, grab a cuppa, and let's chat around the table with Karibu Anawim's 15 Minutes at Dr. Zali's Desk special.
And welcome once again to part 2 of Chelsea's special interview with Chelsey. Chelsey lives with Sturge-Weber syndrome, and that is evident. It's very evident, really. It's kind of like it's the same with me, just a little bit, yeah. But just wondering, very quickly, what is the most straight off the top of your head, because we haven't done any of this and this is just off the top of your head, what is the most what is your most not favored, the bully's favored nickname for you?
Obviously after a certain Batman movie came out, I was known as Two-Face.
Yes, I was Zombie or Cyclops. I don't know how you get Cyclops with one eye, but in the middle of the night, but or Zombie. I mean, it rhymes with Zali, but I mean, those two were the same things. Yep, I got Zombie and Zali, so we're all right. I thought that I might have had the hunch, and I was going to say it, but I thought I would ask because I shouldn't presume anything. Yeah. So
Sorry, I was just going to say, the minute that the movie came out, it was the very next day at school. And it was, as soon as I saw the movie preview, I knew it was coming. And sure enough, the bullies stood in a group. And as soon as I walked onto the school grounds,
What did the school do about that? Nothing?
No,
sorry.
Nothing.
Yeah, nothing. Yeah. Did you tell them?
I told my teachers and told my mom. And she tried to do something with the school. The school did. They were like, "Oh, well, we can talk to the kids." Well, if they did, nothing happened. So,
no. What in mine? Do you know what they did? Yeah, they did one better. Yeah, they did one better. They took me out of class and put me in like half petitioned, right? Half glass area, right? With a social worker or a psychologist, I don't know which one because I was only young, and they'd give me flip cards and it would be a group of girls playing hopscotch and because remember, guys, it was in the early 80s that I was I was thinking. So it was hopscotch or skip, jumping rope, and then there would be another little girl eating her lunch by themselves, and so I'm very clever. I've got one. I'm monocular vision, but I'm not dumb for any stretch of the imagination. And so I would have a wonderful time, psychoanalyze this story, you mugs. That's what I've written in my PhDs. Like I've written about this one. Yeah, and that's what they did. So I was seen as the issue, not the issue of bullying and facial difference or facial disfigurement and learning about tolerance or acceptance of others and and it's still the same. So would you like to talk about your parenting experiences or your dating experiences or something like that? Because
well, dating was awkward. High school was awkward. Boys didn't want anywhere near me. I was gross. It didn't help. The school that I went to was a certain, the town that I lived in was a certain religious population that I wasn't. So it just added to the levels of segregation that I had. But I mean, I just like any teen girl, you had the crushes, you had the guys that you looked at and oohed and awed. But of course, I went dateless to my grad. I went dateless to anything They didn't care. They didn't see me as an equal. I was looked at as having a disability or not being cognitively coherent enough to even give the time of day to. I had a group of friends once I did graduate, and thankfully one of them happened to know a guy, and we all met up one day, and one thing led to another. And this is way back in the day of like MSN Messenger days where you'd spend hours on thing typing, right?
ICQ, and I was on Merck. I did Merck, and my nickname was I'm not quite sure. I want to tell them no.
But thankfully, we connected, my husband and me, through there, and he got to know me through the typing. And
yes,
yeah, and it was
my first boyfriend happened to with that. Yes,
yeah.
ASL, age, sex, location, age. Yes,
exactly. Yes,
yes. I did that too, and then it was only when you felt comfortable that you actually was able to send a picture of yourself, a little JPEG, by the way, of maybe 2 or 3 pixelation or 4 pixelation, whatever it is, back then. But yeah, and it was only then that they got to know who you were before they got to see what you looked like, and I got 1 or 2 boyfriends that way, early on. Yeah, 2. So that's it. Oh, that's taken us back. And by that stage, they didn't care, because you could say to them, "Oh, by the way, I've got, I live with third nerve palsy for me, and this is affecting me. I just look like I'm winking at you all the time." And the double takes, the double winks, people just smile and wink, at you, and then the double takes, like, oh my God.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I just smile and I say hi, or I just crack up laughing because they're like, "Oh my God, you're not winking," or "You should have stopped winking at me by now." I don't know what's going on in their heads, but it's a lot of shock and trauma on their behalf, and it's just quite funny these days for us. Did you ever try and camouflage whilst you're trying to date and that?
In high school, I ended up getting
laser?
Well, and I had done laser treatments through childhood, and did them awake. They were extremely painful, though. They actually caused me a bit of PTSD. I was 6 or 7, being held down by techs at this private dermatologist's office, screaming because it hurt so bad, and they wouldn't stop. That I mean, that set me back. I still am not comfortable in a dentist chair because of that. Went back when I was older because of the peer pressure and the teens and wanting to fit in. And but when I was going, I was 15 or 16, to Sick Children's in Boston, and that wonderful hospital. I got to do the procedures under general anesthetic, which was a lot better. But I ended up doing a consult with some special made makeup, and this stuff covered tattoos, burns, wicked scar tissue, and it covered it beautifully. So it actually did cover my birthmark, and I took grade 10 pictures, even my grad pictures, under this makeup. And I can tell you right now, both sets of those pictures, I hate them because they look so foreign and gross. And I remember the makeup getting stuck in my glasses and feeling gross and dealing with all the acne from my pores being filled, and feeling like I was under this really thick, hot, heavy, gross, oily mask, and just not feeling like myself. It never helped with dating. It just made people go, "She looks really weird, and her face is still puffy, and my eyes still looks different." And I just went, why am I doing 45 minutes of makeup coverage to just not feel like it's me? So I stopped.
When did you stop? What age?
I would have been 20, 21, because it was about 21 that I stopped going to the children's hospital for the laser. And it was then that I was like, you know what? I'm stopping the pain. I'm stopping the having to deal with the post-op care. I'm not hiding behind a mask of makeup. If people are uncomfortable with me, they can either talk to me about it and I educate them, or I just tell them to flip off.
Yeah. go away. Or you
Yeah.
give them the evil eye kind of thing. That you could just shut the other eye and just look at them. I can do that too, but it's a bit creepy because I have one eye open 24/7. So this eye opens when this eye shuts, and so yeah, it does. It only opens half mast. Look, guys, shut your eyes if you don't want to see this, but that's okay. I'm going to be doing it just like this.
Oh.
Except when I'm really, really relaxed, it'll get up. It'll probably get bigger. Yeah.
That's cool.
And so you know, I've had it all. I've had even the fact that I look creepy. Would you believe? Creepy came out of a kid's mouth, and I shared with him what happened in kids' language, and he just shuddered afterwards, and he said, "Still very creepy."
Oh yeah.
What are you going to do? Oh dear. So yeah, your Sturge-Weber syndrome and my third nerve palsy. I run a support group on Facebook for third nerve palsy, and like in the last week, there's been 3 people coming in. Like for the last maybe year, I've had maybe on average about one a week coming in ever since COVID happened and all that sort of stuff. So I don't know whether or not there's a correlation there with whatever's, but that's an interesting thing. So we've talked about dating online and being accepted for who we are online. Yeah.
Definitely.
As opposed to these days of online where we scroll with our faces and go, "Ooh, get lost," and scroll. Yeah. Or swipe. Yeah. And then we've talked about how you met your husband that way?
Well, thankfully I met him in person first with the group of friends, and then we continued to chat online. So he did get to see my birthmark.
Yeah.
But if he was weirded out, it never stopped him because he and I chatted and got to know each other and started going out on dates, and we progressed into a couple, and I mean, everything everyone hopes for.
And so you have got children?
Yes. I've got 2
You've
daughters.
got 2. Yeah. I've got a daughter too. So yeah. But would you like to talk to me about how you felt with your first pregnancy? Because off air we were talking about things, and then I went, "Oh no, if you feel comfortable, we can do it."
Definitely. To sum up the first pregnancy, it actually wasn't a planned pregnancy. It was, oops. So scared. I was scared, but I wasn't scared. Well, I was scared for the normal reasons, oh shoot, look what's happened. How am I going to schedule my life and figure out things? And I'm a young adult myself, and I'm just starting out. But in the same regard, it was also trying to look up online and find out, would people with my condition actually be able to carry a baby? Would I be at a higher risk of stroke with the extra blood? Can I go full term? What about my glaucoma in my left eye with pushing? Can I do that? There was nothing. There was no research, or everything that I did find out, you were actually at a higher risk of blood clots or strokes or something with blood. And I'm thinking, okay, so I have 7 different extra avenues of stress. How am I going to make this work? And then you add in the social aspect of, people are going to start seeing my belly. What are they going to think? I look like a monster, and they struggle to even talk to me now. What are they going to think with seeing my boyfriend and me and my baby bump? And that was definitely a lot of self-love and support from family and support from my boyfriend at the time. And it was stressful.
Who's now your husband, yeah?
Now my husband, yes.
Yeah. So, oh yes. So that would have been horrendous. Because for me, I didn't have that problem because mine was acquired through a car accident as a newborn. But what I did have was when she was a newborn, and she was 10 days old, I experienced a lot of it wasn't PTSD, it was maybe anxiety. And that's because at 10 days old, the car accident happened and I didn't want that to happen to her. So I had a lot of anxiety on that day. Well, I don't even know what it was. It wasn't anxiety. It was, I don't know whether or not it was even body memories, because your body retains everything, regardless of how small you are. There's a book, and I can't remember the name of the book. The book Body Remembers, or something like that. And I haven't read it, but I've heard snippets of, and the body remembers everything that you've gone through. So whether or not I was having a reaction to that or anything, I just don't know. But for that week, it was, I mean, I didn't stop going in the car or doing something like that, but because that would have been silly, and I could, rationalize that, well, that was silly, but I just had to allow my body and allow my experiences to surface and then deal with them. So that I can relate to in that way. So I know other people who've got husbands who live with a facial difference. Excuse me, I'm going to burp. And everybody's going to listen to that because my microphone's just right there. So, and other people who I know have had to, when they've got partners or husbands or even children for that matter, they've had to train their loved ones to be able to not speak for you, because one person was reiterating that they were with their husband and they were with new people, and what happened was that the group of people, they would be introduced to as husband and wife, and they would be going, so how is she? And speaking and expecting the husband to answer for them. So have you ever had any of those experiences?
Definitely. Had to teach I shouldn't say teach, but I had to chat with my husband, and warn him ahead of time, especially when we were dating and things, and say, you're going to feel like you're out with a movie star. You're going to feel like you're ogled at, there's paparazzi, because so many people are going to be so intrigued that someone like myself is out on a date with you. And he didn't take it serious at first, but sure enough, we were at the movies and he's like, okay, I've had this one person, or we've been out shopping at a certain store and he'll be like, okay, this one person's been following us around. And I'm like, yeah, sounds about the norm. You can either go up and talk to them, or you can run them over with the shopping cart, like I've been tempted to do. But yeah, it's just
depending on how you're feeling in the day and how many people that have been doing it. Yeah,
exactly.
I just stare sometimes back.
Yeah.
Not very often, because I believe that one of the ways that we can deal with our facial difference is to learn to educate others. And there's pros and cons about that. Like some people think that you should never be able to do that and get real, people should accept us and all that sort of stuff. And it's like, well, the reality is people do not accept us, and it's up to us. Is it fair that it's up to us to educate? No, it's not. If we want to be, but my rationale is, if we want to be accepted for who we are and to be seen for who we are, not what we look like, then we need to educate. And if we educate one person each day, then that's 7 people and 7 people's families for that week, and there will be a ripple effect at some point. But I say, I say that, people need to have their little spiel, and it should be you know, some people along their journey to acceptance, and acceptance is a lifetime thing. Sometimes we think we got it, and then other times we come crashing down and thinking, why am I going to be scared? You know, why I don't want to go outside today, or I really just would like to have my sunglasses on, or, you know, for me, because if I have my sunnies on, I'm much more likely to get smiled at, and if I lift the lid, they go, oh. Oh, it's just the way it is. And kids, have your kids had to advocate for you?
They both do proudly. They've watched me educate people, and they've seen me get down on a knee and chat with a little one, and I've let the little one, you know, touch my face and look, it's not scary.
I in the eye, yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, both of my kids have happily, when kids in the classroom have asked, or kids at the playground have asked, or we're out shopping, my littlest will run right up and she has a spiel and she goes, and my mom's so awesome. And yeah, she's got a birthmark. Look at her go. And there's been times I've almost been brought to tears because they literally, little advocacy champions, you know, and I feel like, okay, well, no matter who I reach, at least I know I've reached that little ripple of a generation. So
Yeah.
for sure.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I've done so too. So it's now it's happening as well. Because it's just, how do you feel about the two camps, and how do you think as a movement, because you're a facial difference. So I go for disfigurement straight away because that's the terminology that we use. Facial difference advocate. So how do you think that what do you think we as a movement are lacking, and what do you think we need in order to move forward?
In terms of the facial difference movement, I would have to say that we are lacking in support from allies. We don't have enough people that are knowledgeable in our conditions, or in the terminology, or understanding. I know for myself, I've even recently been doing some work with some DEI professionals, and every time I introduce any of this to them,
disability, inclusion,
diversity, and inclusion, people that are supposed to be all about the inclusive aspect, they in turn have actually never heard of any of this, and it's like I'm speaking a brand new book at them, and I go, okay, so we need to get out there more. We need to be in workplaces, in different institutions, educating people that it's not just the general disabilities, but there's actually now the umbrella aspect of facial differences, just like there's ones for invisible disabilities. There's a whole group of us that are being marginalized out. So it's that. But moving forward, we need to be able to be positioned in organizations and things, like I say, to be able to voice for ourselves our trials and our tribulations and our lived experiences, so that people can then get the literature and the studies done and the documentation and just the viewpoints to be like, this is how these people were living in the 2000s with these conditions. This is horrific. And we can honestly say, yeah, we did. We got through the pandemic barely. But we are struggling with mental health. We are struggling with getting services and supports because we're not the generalized disabled. So it's getting more of our feet out there and our faces seen. Excuse the pun, but we need our faces seen and our stories told.
Yeah. So this is the reason why we're here today, talking about our experiences and that sort of stuff. My whole PhD was on, you know, what you as a lived experience, you know, if I had have been interviewing you, we would have been doing a lot more little other things. But if I was interviewing you, the way the methodology or the approach that I took was the interpretive phenomenological analyses. So it was basically interpreting what you were saying as you were the lived experience. You were the guru of your own self. You were the expert of your own experiences. And then I had to, with other people, so therefore my own bias didn't come in, or I could actually write about my own bias in the document itself, because it was such a fluid and a really good methodology in actual fact that I could actually chip in and say, well, this happened to this person, but in my experience, this is not, and this is not a rare phenomena. This is actually quite very common. You know, as we've talked about our families, we've talked about chatting online, we've talked about, you know, having to educate our own spouses or boyfriends about how the paparazzi, you've got the paparazzi, or I've just got the stare bears and the avoidance sort of thing, because mine is more nearly normal. And the more nearly normal that I get, in my opinion at the moment, is the fact that it's the same experiences that we have, but the cognitive dissonance that other people have, they can possibly stomach your stories because you've got a bigger and more visible difference than mine. Whereas mine, people say, well, it's just an eye. It's just an eye, you know, and so when I go and say, yes, it's just an eye, but would you like your eye looking like this? Would you like your face looking like this? Would you like to go out in public 24/7? Would you like to try and pour a kettle, you know, hot water? You know, would you like to try and do this without looking, you know, at what you're doing and getting it right? Because that is a skill that when you go monocular, you have to learn. You have to relearn. Is there any other take home that you would like people to have? Is there a takeaway message that you'd like them to know before I have a sip?
Well, definitely, you know, go by that old phrase of never judge a book by its cover. Like, for example, with mine, you know, this isn't just a birthmark, it's a complex condition, but in all aspects of the facial differences community, it's not just a cleft lip, it's not just a burn, it's not just a scar. There is a whole backstory and a traumatic, oftentimes, backstory to that individual and what they have been through. So to assume anything is more painful to them than if you would just come up and ask them or include them.
Yeah. So ask a genuine question politely. That's what we say. And then it's up to them to say bugger off or give you a false phony thing of, oh my God, you know, I got stabbed in the eye, or, you know, for me, or oh my God, did it really? Did it happen? Oh, that's okay, you know, or, you know, that sort of thing. So, anything else that you'd like to say before we wind up?
Oh, I think we're good. That was a nice piece. I like that one.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much for coming and being our guest today. And thank you, listeners, for listening. I didn't even actually say thank you to you guys for listening. Whoops-a-days. I was just so one-eyed, one-tracked in the whole episode. Oh, dear. So I will now put us out and we'll say goodbye. Thank you very much for coming.
It's the end of Karibu Anawim's 15 Minutes at Dr. Zali's Desk special. And that's a wrap for this episode. Thanks for tuning in. Please remember that all information given during this episode is for general application only. If you have any specific medical issues, as always, consult with your medical practitioner. Like, subscribe and share on whatever platform you find us on. For more information, please connect with Karibu Anawim on our website at karibuanawim.com or email us at inquiries@karibuanawim.com.